Hello and welcome. Is this thing on? I think this is on. This is me adjusting this. What's up? It is Wednesday. Folks, for those of you who are in the chat, please tell me that you can see and hear all of the things. I am drinking coffee today out of my super fancy WP Eagle mug, and that's pretty much the highlights of my day so far. I see Zach and Josh in the chat arguing in a friendly manner about who was first. Josh says that hearing works. I assume that the seeing works as well. I also see Sonia tuning in from somewhere early in the morning on the other side of the world. Always happy to have you. And Jen says that she finally made it. It's great to have you. And, this is a great time to try and make the most of this. So you're here, like, tell me how it's going. I'd love to hear it. Jen says, apparently YouTube hates to notify me until it's replay time. That's why you just got to get here at the top of the hour at the time. I'm going to be here. I'm almost always, not always, but almost always. Josh says, I could change out the blanket, get a branded blanket. All right. So if there is a company out there, I don't know, like somebody who is in our space who would like to create a branded blanket and would like to put it there, I am open to discussing fees for this. I don't mind putting it there. It would be like right there. It's like a little billboard. Who of our, I want to say, friends or colleagues? There's Ben Adler over at Keyword Chef. We could talk to him about creating a blanket. We'll see. And Margaret, Harold, Jay-Z jumping in. It is my birthday, although it isn't. There is too much gray hair here. You cannot see it for it to be 21, but thank you. That's right. So yes, it is my birthday, and funny enough, I was just digging through my shirts, looking for something that was at least somewhat appropriate and respectable for streaming for an hour. And today, by the way, I mostly have plans to talk about the usual topics, which is my life and niche websites, and the things that y'all talk about in the chat. So if you have questions or you want to throw some accountability moments into the chat, please feel free to do so. Also, I see the first thumbs up of the day. Smash, press, lightly massage the like button on your way through. I don't know that helps anything, but I think we're supposed to do it. But the plan is to talk a little bit about anniversaries because not only is it my birthday today, this month around this time, because there's not really like one day that was the launch day of my online business career. It was this summer, 4 years ago, that I made the decision that I was going to try to make money online, and started the process of investigating potential methods and strategies, and I did go down the ClickFunnels hole, which is why this shirt was appropriate for today. But I look back and it has been 4 years, and I think back to what I was thinking. And I'm pretty sure, I historically use these notebooks, and because I'm old and I like to write down goals. Like I just like to actually write things down. For some reason that feels different to me than typing or like putting it in my phone. But I remember writing down at the time that by the end of that first year, so by the end of 2018, I wanted to be making $4,000 a month. Right. And I thought that seemed like a reasonable goal. If I looked at it like a trajectory like this, right? Like if I just get started, I'll just continue to put in the work. And then, the next week it will just be a little bit more. And the next week will just be a little bit more. And so on and on and on. And I just figured that it would look like this, right? So I go from 0 to up here. The line is pretty straight. All I need to do is pour in hard work, because in my life and experience, really all I had to do was just work really hard and results would happen. And so, oh, poor me. Needless to say, I did not get to the point where I was making $4,000 a month consistently by the end of Sorry, it's funny because my phone is ringing because it's my birthday and my brother's calling me, and my brother has been out of the country for months, and he just happened to wait until I'm 5 minutes into a live stream. Sorry, brother, you're gonna have to wait. I'm busy this minute. Oops. Not that he would catch the stream, but if he did. Oh, but just looking back like 4 years ago, if I had known, right? If I had known at the time what I was getting into in that first couple of months, would I have continued to do this work if I had known that it would take me not not 1 year, not 2 years, but maybe multiple years to get to that goal? That I didn't actually get to that goal consistently until like the end of year two, early year three. Uh, I don't know. Would I have kept going? Would I don't know. I honestly don't know if I would have known that it would take so long. I think because at the time when I got started, I clearly because I fell down the ClickFunnels rabbit hole, I perceived that there was, I don't want to say easy, but like that there, like it wouldn't be quite that hard. Maybe that's what it was. And lo and behold, after spending some time in the business, I found out that it was for me much more difficult than I perceived it to be. So would I do this again? I don't know. I don't know if I would do this again. So let me ask this then. This will be the first question for the chat today is, folks, if you knew then what you know now about the challenges and how difficult it was and how long it would take, would you do it again? Would you do it again? I would like to know what you folks have to say or think about that because I am super curious. I'm not sure that I would. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I would. I I don't know. Josh says I could get a branded one. The thing is, I should get a branded one for myself. That's actually probably a better idea. Jen says down to business. Traffic is doubling, which is awesome. Search console has stopped new indexing since July 5th. It doesn't mean that it's not indexing. It just means that Google Search Console has not updated. And that doesn't mean necessarily that things aren't still going well. There is Sabina saying, hey, 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 friends. And there is G. Paul Hendricks. It's awesome to see you in the chat. And Maeve, yes, some birthday wishes. Thank you very much for dropping in and saying happy birthday. This will be the source of most of my happy birthdays for the day. Let's see. Sabina says, I got the sidebar up, so looking about getting ads on the site and now getting ready to look like looking at things like speed. Holy cow, a blast from the past. We've got Emil in the chat, which is pretty wild, actually. Friend, we haven't seen you in so long. And now I'm like, how are things going? Like, what's going on? You were one of our original folks that hung out with us when we started doing the accountability group. And back when I was experimenting with a Facebook group as a place to gather and to be held accountable. And here you are, friend. It's great to see you in the chat. And I want to know how things are going. Sabina says, I feel down a hole after Alex's video. I don't know which video Alex is talking about. I will say though, what Sabina is talking about Alex's, but specifically I have not watched hardly any YouTube the last couple of days, but I will say that I did see Alex's video responding to some other SEO YouTuber that apparently made a video in the last couple of days, week, like calling out other channels or companies or organizations for their, I guess, behavior, the things they say or do or teach. And I honestly did not want to go and watch the video because I really don't want to support, even though I'm curious, right? I feel like the clickbaity stuff where people go out of their way to say negative things. it has the purpose, right? It has the purpose of wanting to raise their own profile, and also to get clicks or to catch the YouTube fire. Um, and I just not willing. I'm not interested in supporting that unless folks in the chat say that it is extremely valuable, and I would personally gain value from going and checking it out. uh, I will look for your opinions in the chat. But I did watch Alex's video, and this is the other reason I'm using my WP Eagle mug today. It's a silent yet loud statement of support. I think it's pretty easy to be critical of people here on YouTube and who actually are public about their stuff, their work online. And it is not always fun to be public, right? There's the fun things, right? There's the ability, and Alex has done this, where he will stream and have hundreds of people who show up to his streams. And I mean, that feels good and it's fun. And having followers and being able to sell things, it's great. But on the other side of it, it's you also make yourself the target of people who have thoughts and feelings about the things that you do, because you are somebody who is out there. And I remember when I first got started, how afraid I was of that. And I think to this day, I still feel, I don't want to say anxious about it, but I know that the possibility is there that at any point somebody might take aim at me or what I do or this channel or people that I support. And it's not always easy and fun. And that's the other side of it. And Alex did. I don't know that I would have said anything at all. Like, I don't know if I would have responded at all, but Alex is like, hey, this is what I do, and here's what I'm here for, and take it or leave it. Basically, I mean, nobody is forced to follow him or me or anybody else. And it's just interesting. So, Alex, if you're watching this live or on the replay, I'm with you. And it's just good job moving forward and continuing to learn and to grow and stay on your own path and not worry necessarily about what everybody else, or at least one guy, thinks about you. Back to the question, would you do it again? And I see not too many people actually in the chat answering that question. So I really hope that it is because you are thinking about it. If you could go back again to the beginning of your efforts in online business, making money online, knowing now what you didn't know then about how long it would take and how difficult it has been, at least for some of us, would you do it again? So far, let's see. Bloggers on the Rise says 100% yes. Well, that's cool to know. Sabina says, I'm only in year 2, but this is much harder than I expected. The low cost and the big possibilities. So would you start again? Like, would you go back and say, yes, this is a great idea, I'm going to do it? Margaret says, if I knew then what I know now, I'd probably be 6 months ahead of where I am. So she says she would do it again. Margaret says, yes, I would do it again. J. Paul says, yes, I would do it again, but he would do more and think less. That's a great point. Josh says, always no better way to make solid income on the side. Sonia says, I have a random question. Do we need to have any disclaimers or privacy policies before applying to Beautyvine? I would have definitely. I'm surprised if you're running ads already now that you're not required to have a privacy policy. So yes, I would look into setting that up. Going back to the question of a recent video that came out, having some strong words about other folks in our niche, J. Paul says, don't bother watching the video. It's just what you said. It's for clicks. Yeah, that's just, it seems like there's got to be a better way to get followers and to build a business. And I'm not going to go watch his video. Let's see. Zach says, would do a few things differently, would definitely do it again. What if you didn't actually get to use the knowledge? What if you had to do it the same way to get to this point. Because it's one thing if I could say, oh, I could take all of this and go back to the beginning and then start over. And of course, you would. It seems more like I would be more likely to start back 4 years ago with my knowledge now. But what if you just would have to do it all the same way and all the suffering? What if you didn't get to avoid the suffering? If there was suffering, some of you may not have suffered. My suffering, I think, is medium. I think other people have suffered and had to work harder than I have had to work to. Jen says, I'm right a year in and I could easily shave 6 months off if I restarted. I am not a cat says I would definitely do it all over again. This is my fourth attempt at blogging. 04, 08, then 17. It wasn't until 2020, then it all clicked for me. Keith says he would do it again, but he'd kick himself up the rear end to just focus on one site. I don't know if I would. I don't know. I don't know because there's so many things that I feel like I could do and be successful at. I don't know. Harold says, I just wish I knew 10 years ago what I know now. Well, I think across the board, we probably all could say that. If I could look back 10 years ago, or even maybe just a little further, maybe 15 would be good. I mean, life would be completely different. Zach said that he would suffer again. He would do it all the same, include all the suffering. Failure is the path to success. Sabina says, I needed to start when I did. I would do it again, even though it's been hard. I know it's exactly the right thing to do. That's, I think it's worthwhile to sit down and just think for the perspective's sake. I think it is. I'm not a cat says I would do it all the same way. The learning curve is steep, but it's all our competitive advantage. If it was easy, there'd be no money in it. Right. If it was super easy, then there'd be no way that any of us could do this because it would be flooded. It would be completely impossible to get through it. Speaking of other anniversaries, so the first anniversary for today was the anniversary of my birth. I met with my mother last night for our yearly rendition of the story how I arrived, and my mother tells the story literally every year of giving birth to me and how much trouble that I was. This is for Chris rolling in here on time at 18 minutes after. Say hello to our on-time friend Chris. Ooh, by the way, Chris, while I have you here, Dee texted me, our friend Dee, who is not in the chat today, but often is. And she says that we need to create a Twitter handle and a Facebook page for the podcast because she has wanted to respond and like tag or link the podcast on Facebook when people ask in groups like, what's a good podcast to listen to? Or on Twitter, but we don't have such things for the podcast to be linked to and to be promoted by other folks that are friends. So it's not my idea. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying that somebody else mentioned it and I thought it was a good idea. Kaylee says, I don't know, but I clicked on this by accident. Is this spiritual in nature or could it be? Kaylee, this stream is a gathering place, a once a week, 1 hour meeting for folks that are interested in building niche websites. And people come here to speak about their personal lives, if it's relevant to trying to build a business, to ask questions about building their online websites. Sometimes when the chat is slow, I talk about what's going on in my life, but basically think of it like going down to the pub, going down to the local hangout spot and just talking about your week. And so if it's spiritual for you, then that is all right. It's not particularly religious. It's just mostly a time to congregate for about an hour so we can talk about our space, and then it's free. There's no membership, and then you go on your way. But thanks for dropping in, even if it is not your thing. Body language, it matters, says, do you use AI content? I was thinking about getting one. I have been personally testing Jasper.ai for about 2 or 3 months. I think it is interesting. I do not use the AI content straight out of the box. All of it needs to be fact checked, and I rewrite a lot of it. But I will say that it is handy to make things happen when I am not feeling like writing myself, and it is much cheaper if you have the time to create that content using an AI tool. But again, it's not good enough, I don't think, on its own without some work. I do notice that there is what looks like AI content popping up in a lot of my outsourced content. I think there are a lot of freelancers who are using it, um, and and you generally don't necessarily know. J. Paul Hendricks says, "Do you and Chris do a podcast together now?" We have been working on a podcast on and off for, I don't know how long it's been, Chris. It's been several months, but because we are both so busy, the episodes are sporadic. It's sort of like a gift, right? Or like the lottery. Just on a random day, there will be an episode and it drops, and then there you are. You never know when it's going to happen. But back to anniversaries. Oh, yes. So I got distracted. I was talking about the anniversary of my birth and my mother telling my birth story. And then the 4-year anniversary of getting online, like starting this process. It's almost like graduating. Right? Maybe I have graduated from the school of hard knocks, learning how to make money online. But another anniversary that just rolled past was the 1-year anniversary of launching the fight site project, the niche site cage fight project that Chris and I started last year. That the actual cage fight itself didn't really happen for so many reasons, none of which we will hassle Chris about. But I can't believe that it's already been 12 months. I actually was sitting down because I need to make a video about the site and realizing that it had been 12 months on this project. And it's not a good idea to do comparisons, right? Because you do comparisons and then they thieve your joy, right? Comparisons are the thief of joy. So for the Mega site, from 0 to 12 months, it was a fresh domain, 0 to $2,000 a month in 12 months. And I looked at the 30 days earnings on the niche site cage fight, and that site I think made $80 in 1 month. So I worked my tail off for a year on the Mega site and got it to $2,000 a month. And then this other site I worked on, I wouldn't say that I didn't work on it. I just didn't work on it as hard. And it is making a whopping $80 a month. I mean, you can't win them all, right? I don't have the Midas touch. I never have. Some people, like, everything they start just goes boom and it's amazing. And I've not had that experience, but I think it goes to show you that it depends on the niche. It depends on the topics that you choose. It depends on the competitiveness and the side of the audience and all of the things. And even though I am pretty much doing things the same way, right? The same sort of keyword research, the same types of articles. It's just a different niche, different audience, and that's how it plays out sometimes. So yes, look forward very soon to seeing that 12-month wrap up for that site, and I will have to make some decisions soon about whether or not I will continue to make videos on it, because I don't know necessarily that it adds very much in the way of value to the YouTube verse. Checking back to the chat. Yes, the story of my birth is a lovely tradition, but at this point, I could basically tell it from my mom. I think she knows that she tells it every year and thinks it's funny. At this point, my kids also know the story of my birth. Back to the question of whether or not we need a Twitter or Facebook handle. He said the Twitter handle is a good idea, but also SEO Twitter is so toxic. Yeah, I don't spend any time on Twitter, and so SEO Twitter, I feel like Twitter is a place for people to do their mic drops and then just turn it off, right? The things they would never say to you in person, but they can say it on Twitter because it's short, and then they don't have to be there in person to see the impact of the things that people say. So it's like, and it's short, so you don't really necessarily have to support your statements with anything. You're like, oh, well, I only have 140 characters and what I can link to, so I can say whatever I want and it doesn't matter. And so there. It's been especially toxic the last couple of weeks. Yeah, none of that sounds interesting. None of that sounds valuable to me at all. Chris talks about The podcast, he said, we recorded one the other day and it was so bad I didn't publish it. I feel like I might have said what I was actually thinking in that one and maybe why that was bad. That's totally fine, Chris. It doesn't bother me at all. If you think it's good, then publish it. If it's not, then not. J. Paul says, will fall forward return? That is a great question. And I do not know. The hard part about it is that it just takes up time. And also I feel like the podcast when I started it, what, 3 years ago now, it really had a purpose. I was at that point trying really hard to find a footing and find a place and also make connections with people so that I could grow YouTube and just gain some confidence in the space. And what's really cool about a podcast is that when you have a podcast, you can reach out to people who you would normally not be able to talk to. Like if I just walked up to some of these CEOs or authors or people in our space and just said, "Hey, you need to give me an hour of your time. Put me on your calendar and I will just ask you every question that I could possibly want and you will be happy to be there and oh, don't forget it's free." Right? They would say, "No way." But as soon as you say that you have a podcast, they're like, "Oh, yeah, that would be great." They don't ask about how many downloads you have. They don't really ask that much about you. Like, do you have a following? Is this worthwhile? They're just like, podcast, great. And so it was a really great opportunity to get introduced to and have a one-on-one conversation with people in our space, people that I admired, that I wanted to get to know, or people that I felt were colleagues that I felt like I wanted to be at their level, or I felt like we were at the same level, and I wanted to be able to talk to them, and it felt awkward just like cold DMing them. They're like, "Hey, you got a minute to talk to me on Zoom?" And it's weird, but as soon as you say that it's about a podcast, it really had a purpose. So now, fast forwarding 3 years later, it says, do I still have that same purpose? I'm definitely more connected, and I know a lot more people now than I did 3 years ago. I definitely feel a lot more confident, either in streaming or on, and just feeling at ease, in this space. I feel like I know a bit more about where my place is or where I want it to be. So I don't know if that podcast will come back in that form. I may podcast in other forms, but I was actually thinking about taking it down recently because I don't know necessarily that it has the purpose now that it did. So it's a great question. Body Language Matters says, this is my brother calling. Hey, brother, I'm actually live streaming on YouTube right now. Can I call you back? Love you. Half an hour. Okay, love you. Bye. Sorry, that is the first. I've never actually answered the phone live on a live stream, but he's calling and he's been out of the country, and I want him to know that I wasn't just like nexting. Body Language says he's used Surfer SEO. I have also tested Surfer, and I feel like there's a lot of good in it. It just wasn't a good fit for me. I actually spent a lot of time being distracted by a lot of the metrics and a lot of the data. And for me, this happens a lot where I will try out tools, and Ahrefs is like this. Even though I think that the tools have a lot of value, they have too many bells and whistles that prevent me from hitting the publish button. I will spend hours digging through data because I just like it, right? Like comparing this to this and like treasure hunting this for this. And in the end, I wasn't publishing as much. So I actually have to cut myself off of a lot of tools that have too many bells and whistles because it hurts my productivity a lot. How many articles on the Mega site? The Mega site currently has 1,050, 1,000. I got to 1,000, and then the May update happened, and the site was I wouldn't say like significantly impacted, but was somewhat impacted. I didn't actually dig into it too much, but Niche Safari Chris did a look at SEMrush for me recently and said that all my snippets were gone. So that's probably what happened is snippet. I don't want to say snippet ban. Is that a thing? But Chris says back to the niche site cage fight.
He says it's at 1,500 page views a month with 38 articles. He's adding 15x hair links and 40 articles this month, so it's not dead, just haven't been consistent. So shall we see? Shall we do the last 30 days on my niche site, Cage Fight? Chris. Let's see. So my last 30 days, let's look at sessions. This is, I don't know if we'll be able to see it. So that's my last 30 days, 4 sessions on the niche site, Cage Fight. So you can see that there's about almost 16,000 sessions. And then you can see right there, that is what happened with the update. So it was up there and then now it's down here. So, to be fair, the niche site Cage Fight was set to go 15 months. So I won't say that I won, but I think we agreed that I won. Kaylee says, because Kaylee is new to our community, was asking what we were doing here. It says, we'll check in. Yep. Well, if you look at this channel, you will see that there is more than a year's worth of Wednesday live streams. You're welcome to go back and start at the beginning if you like and catch up with us. Jay says, hello, how's the Mega site going? Traffic and revenue. Let's see, when was the last post that I put up? I'm going to my personal blog. That's something that I did start this year. It's emiliagardner.blog. And when you go there, there are no bells and whistles, basically whatsoever. Let's see, I put a month 18 post up there. I did. So as of month 18, at the end of June 30th is the most recent update. I haven't checked revenue that carefully for the last 30 days, but as of the end of June, so the month of June, it had just over 104,000 page views for the month. And unfortunately, the site did get hit somewhat by the update, as we were just talking about a few minutes ago. The month before, it had 135,000 page views and looked like it was headed to the moon. It is no longer headed to the moon, but it is fairly stable now. It's not currently falling week on week like it was. It just is. As far as revenue goes, the site was on track to make upper 3,000s last month, and then this month it'll be somewhere in the upper 2,000s. So definitely some money lost there, but not the end of the world. Chris says, did you tell everyone we caught up for beers last week? I tells me that you missed, I think I mentioned it in last week's live stream, but I will say it again. We forgot to take a picture. And yes, folks, I am happy to confirm that Chris is quite a bit taller than me. We did meet in person, which was exciting. He and his wife were coming through on their way to a festival, and I had beers for the first time with somebody I met in this space. And it was really great to sit down with he and his wife and have an actual conversation. And it was not as awkward as I thought it would be, although I have a feeling that Chris thought it was more awkward than he thought it would be. Bloom later says, hello, hope you are doing good. And I say, hello, thank you for dropping in. Let us know how things are going. Kaylee was thinking about niche sites and thinking about tarot, some kind of divination. So it could be anything. So the answer is yes, you could absolutely start a website about the whole idea of tarot cards or the use of tarot cards or divination. You would want to look and get an idea potentially of how valuable that audience was to see if it would be maybe a good place to dive into as far as creating a website. But if this is your first time starting a site, sometimes that research stuff doesn't matter quite as much as getting started and gaining some of the skills simply of setting up a website and, figuring out all of the potential struggles that go with that and gaining some of that knowledge and experience and worrying less about whether or not it's going to work. Because the next time you do it, you'll have that experience of setting up a website and you won't have to worry so much about that part. You can focus more on making it successful. J. Paul says, people love to hear themselves talk. Hey, now. All right, we do. Jen wants to know any updates on the mom blog. So yes, I did post handful of months ago that I had made the decision to start putting time and effort and money into my 2019 case study site, which was a mom blog that got slaughtered in the May the 4th update in 2020. And I'm happy to report that I did spend money on a writer who created some great stuff for me. And the website was also again impacted by the May 2022 update and has taken the wind out of my sails again on that project. Ah. I have not given up though on it. I do owe an update post for the blog, but I have not managed the magical combination to make it immediately incredibly successful. But I am going to keep working on it. And yes, my children are very cute. They said hi to Chris for about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe less, and then went off to play. And that was all the interest that they had for Chris and his wife. Kaylee says, while reading back through the chat seems very intimidating. You know, here's the thing. You forget that, you don't forget because you don't know, but the rest of us, I think, forget and lose perspective of what it's like to be at the very beginning and how much we didn't know and how much we know now. I definitely am guilty of that. I recently helped my aunt set up her first personal blog and forgetting that it's a whole other world. I was like, oh, you just do this. And oh, you just do this. And she's like that look like, hmm? And she's very smart, right? It's not like this is somebody who couldn't do this herself or figure it out, but it's just that's how far you come in a really short time. And you don't necessarily think of yourself as an expert, but when you're compared to somebody who's like brand new. So yes, there is a lot to know and it can be intimidating, but you just have to, if you're really interested in doing it and getting started, then you should just do it. There's our friend Jasper. Jasper, what's going on? How are things, friend? Thanks for dropping in. Chris says 104,000 page views is amazing. I say thank you. I have a hard time as far as perspective goes because I was imagining that site at 150,000 page views at the end of June. And instead it went the opposite direction. So I can't help but feeling grumpy. Is grumpy the right word? Frustrated. Even though it's a great result, right? It's like exciting to have built a site in like a reasonably quick, short period of time to that place. But my perspective is all wonky because of my really terrible goal setting. Chris says, I'm just an awkward person. At least you are self-aware. I did not find you awkward. So if you are, you'll cover it fairly well, friend. Zach comes in with something worth celebrating, and my children have stolen all of my sound effects. But he says that his site that lost 90% traffic is completely back this week. Well done, friend. I'm so happy for you. That is awesome. Maeve says that her site that was down 90% is also completely back. And we know that Jasper had a site that was down 80 to 90%, but also came back. That is so great, friends. I'm so excited about it. J Paul up there, up higher, he just said, people like to hear themselves talk. And I was like, I do. And then he said, I was talking about podcast guests. Bloom later says, my site is 7 months old and it's barely getting any visitors, like 5 a month. Have over 100 articles on there. I was really hoping to make some money off this, but things are getting bleak. You know, normally if the site was in the first couple of months, I would say, don't worry about it. Like, seriously, don't worry about it. Just keep going. But your site is 7 months old and you have 100 articles and there's only like 5 visitors a month. That, my friend, might be a time where it would be worthwhile to see if you could find somebody who would do a site review and a consultation with you to sit down with you and to look through it and just get an idea of troubleshooting maybe what's going on, because 7 months seems like, and folks in the chat can chime in, but it seems like with 100 articles that something should be trickling in at least a little bit. And so it could be a technical issue, it could be a niche issue, it could be something. I mean, and some sites don't take off, right? They just don't, or they'll take a long time to take off. But I definitely would be curious at 7 months with that much content. I would be looking into having somebody take a look at it with me. Please Morton says, been thinking about starting a store sending cheap local foods and condiments back to the States. You know, I have no idea how that would work out or how to do that, but it sounds interesting. And I'd be curious to hear how it goes if you get started doing it. Sonia says, me being just super tired of chasing 50K, although I'm just there at burning out. So this is not it feels like a sprint, but it's a sprint wrapped up in a marathon. So setting like achievable goals and then giving yourself a break and then setting goals and then just keeping it in mind that if you just keep grinding it out, eventually you will get there. Please Morton says, attorneys have to enjoy the sound of their own voice to be any good in court. You know, maybe. I don't know if I agree with that actually, and maybe it's because I was an attorney and speaking in court was not always the most enjoyable place in the world. I think attorneys enjoy winning. I think that is a universal thing that attorneys like to do, and sometimes they will do just about anything to get there. But the sound of our own voices, like, I don't know if that is necessarily it. I'm a cat says blogging is a marathon made up of 4 miles. Yes. Oh, yeah. Zach says that blogging is a fire hose in the beginning for sure. And it totally is, right? And then you don't even realize what you've done and how far you've come until so much later. Another thing on my list to do to talk about was, another thing I did in the last week is I took my Otis.global collab project and put Ezoic on it. And I haven't put a new site on Ezoic in, gosh, since I set up the fight site. So back in August of last year. So it's been basically a year since I set up a new site on Ezoic. And some of my takeaway impressions are that for people who are used to using the platform, I thought that adding a domain and going through that process has gotten much easier and is less confusing. I don't think it's perfect. And definitely I felt like it was all like my good feelings about having gotten through it. Like it was like an almost moment because all the boxes were checked except for the Ezoic review section. And I'd gotten through it and I was just sitting waiting for the Ezoic, my publisher success rep to review it. And it said 24 to 48 hours. And at 48 hours, that part had not been reviewed, had not been approved. So I followed the instructions and sent an email to my publisher success representative. And within a couple hours, I got an email back and the rep said, your site looks good to go. And I was like, no, it's not. And then the weekend happened. And so then it took a couple of, all the cycle of the weekend around to Monday. And the rep was like, oh, yeah, took care of it. But it was like this moment where I was like, oh, it's actually going really well. And then how could you not like know that this part just needs to be checked off? But anyway, it was a significantly better experience than it had been in the past, but it wasn't perfect. So, again, like definitely seeing improvement, which is awesome for any company, but like they're almost there. Now, one of the reasons I decided to add Ezoic right now, and I went through with the integration of DNS servers instead of I don't even know if you can use other methods anymore, but I used the plugin and then the DNS servers. And I did this because almost all of the articles on the Otis.global collab URL domain, H domain project got de-indexed at the end of May with the update, and then have been continuing to fall out of the index in the month of June and then early in July. And none of the new content that I have put up is indexing at all. And so you hear some people talk about, oh, hey, yeah, I integrated with Ezoic and that helped jumpstart the indexing process. And so far, I've been checking basically daily to see if there's any movement on that site as a result of integrating with the DNS servers. And so far, the answer is no. Still terrible. So the indexing situation with that site is deplorable and sad. I'm definitely going to continue to work on it because I did have the goal of putting up 500 articles in a year on it. But right now I'm not feeling super optimistic about it. But yeah, that happened this week. Jen says, back to goals, says I'm only setting goals based on what I can control. For example, the amount I publish and not views or revenue. And I think that is very, very intelligent and something that I have to remind myself all the time because I get completely sucked into how's the site doing? And have I made the progress that I was wanting to make and all of the rest. So, all right, folks, I know it's not quite the top of the hour, but I have things that I want to get done. And after all, it is my birthday. So I'm going to say cheers to you. Thank you for coming and celebrating with me for 45 minutes to an hour. I hope you guys have a great week, all of you ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you back here next Wednesday, same time, all of the rest. And don't forget to call my brother. You're right. I was going to forget, and I'm actually going to do that literally right now. All right, folks, have a great week. We'll talk soon.